Hello, everyone. Today I'm going to be doing a breakdown tutorial of my grass material that I made on Substance Designer. Here she is. I mean, it's just grass, but so pretty much we have our material here, and I'm gonna go through every single individual node and what I'm doing to get this final result, and then I'll show you the documentation here so that we could see the end product that we could get on Marmoset. Once you do proper lighting and enable the subsurface scattering and all those fun things that you can do. So it's a little intimidating to come into it like this. So, we want to start off with a basic shape. And, maybe what I'll do here is to make this more immersive, I have the whole texture, so just put a gray material there. So usually I do start off with just a uniform color on the base color so that I could get a good height for any material. It doesn't really matter. And then I have my final blend. Let me frame this. Final blend slash height. And usually you always want to have one final one that's just not plugged in, with a on copy with an opacity of 0. You don't always want this, but I do it just because it helps me plug everything into this, and I never get lost on what my final height is because of this node here. So I don't want this video to be too long but I just want it to be informative enough to where everyone can learn something. So okay, so let's just start off going down the bases. So to get my first individual grass blade, what I did was start off with a shape and turn down the size to 0.12 to get this grass blade type effect. There's many ways to do this. Some people use waveforms for this, and they control the waveform to get one thing like this, and then they take down the noise, and there you go. And then you have a nice grass blade here that you could just blur. Maybe not blur, but you get the gist. You could use a waveform. I started with the paraboloid. Then what I did was I cut it using another shape into a transform. To be honest, this is kind of wasteful because you could do a histogram. You could do a gradient, right? A gradient linear into a histogram scan. You could put this at 0.5. Bear with me here, guys. I'm like trying, or sorry, you put the top one at 0.5, and then you get this nice, like, it's pretty much the same effect. What you're gonna learn here is that there's like 1,000 ways to do one thing on Substance, and I guess that's all the explaining I'll do for that. So that I could go through this faster. So yeah, so I put it through a blend, put it on subtract mode, then I transform it. I stretch it out all the way to the bottom to get the full length of the grass, and then I make it, I'm doing some slight adjustments here. I think I like pointed it upwards so that it's not hitting the bottom here. And then I levels it to darken it completely, which allowed me to then give it like the the middle area here, which is like the indent, which makes the leaf split into two separate like blades almost, but just in one single blade, like grass does. And then here I'm using a trapezoid transform with a value of 0.64 on the top stretch. You know, let's just round this out so it's not such an awkward number. 0.65. And what that is doing is I'm just making it really, 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 really thin at the top, because I don't want like a chunky grass blade. All grass, you know, tends to get really sharp at the top. And let me just come in to, let me just show you guys my reference here real quick that I use for this material. Well, not that. So had a bunch of different materials from other people, and I also got real grass to look at. That's not real grass, but it's pretty close. And here, and oh, that one's mine. That one shouldn't really be there. That I didn't use my own as reference. Yeah, and then also it's really good if you just go outside and, you know, if you can, for certain materials, you know, not all materials you'll be able to do this, but get like a picture yourself on your phone that you could use as reference. So here, after the trapezoid transform with the top stretch, I vector morph so that I could get more wavy blade, single blade of grass. And that what you do with vector morph is basically it blends it morphs the entire shape that you have. So, you know, I could come in here with a black and white spots one and make this really like less rough, and I'll get, you know, a bit more crunchiness to it, because that's what black and white spots has to it. And, you know, either way you get a cool effect either way. See how that actually looks. Looks similar. Don't really want to change it because it might screw up something, but so yeah, taking that, and then this Perlin noise. So I have the vector morph. I put it at a low value because, as you can see, if you put it at a high value, it just makes it really, really wiggly, and we don't want that. So, and then I put it through a warp, and, you know, that's just tightening it up a little bit, warping it more. You don't want it to look procedural, so you want to put it through a lot of warps. I just did one, but, you know, sometimes I do 2, 3, whatever I'm feeling at the moment. And then a multiply with another Perlin noise so that I could get more height range in the way it's popping in and out of the ground. So, you know, I have like the lighter parts, darker parts go down a little bit more. Then I'm overlaying it with a gradient linear, and this is just to get the values up a little bit because I don't want my grass to just be like completely submerged. Then I am slope blurring it with a Perlin noise, and I'm just trying to get like a little fuzziness to this grass, just so that it doesn't like, just so that it gets more a little bit more like right here. You see how it's just popping out a little bit and it looks a little bit more natural. Then okay, so here's where it's getting complex. Let me just look at this without this so I could see what I'm actually doing. Okay, so we are going to a blend, and I'm just going to ignore this because I'm pretty sure I did that afterwards. So I'm going into a blend, and what I'm doing is I'm taking on auto levels so that I could get like pretty much the highest value possible this grass blade can be at, and a bevel. As you can see, I have a little bit of a thing there. That shouldn't be happening. You try to prevent this. I might have gone too low. Oh, maybe the way I did my grass blade, that happened, but try not to have that when you're doing this entire process. Basically, I want more of the, you know, like the sloping outwards, to get this more beveled edge for the grass blade, and I'm using a subtract here. At 0.03, I try to work in like really small values constantly. Okay, so I think now that was our basic, this was our basic shape for our grass. And after this basic shape, after this, I start going into combining each grass blade into like slightly more complex variations of grass, because grass isn't just one grass blade, it's like multiple grass blades stacked on each other, and then stacked on each other again. So here basically all I'm doing for all of these is I am blending them together using max lightens, and as you can see I use max lighten all of here. I don't really use add linear dodge because add linear dodge sometimes, or most of the time, it blends the two values on top of each other, maximizing it more instead of like merging the two values. And when they merge, they kind of stay at the same like height range. But if they like, so see here, max lighten with an add linear, this becomes just a weird section because both these overlapping blades of grass are adding height onto each other instead of just blending into each other. So I usually just use max lighten. Another way you could approach this is, one second. Another way you could approach this is maybe using a height blend. And I won't show that whole entire process, but height blend, what it does, says he won't show it, shows it. Jesus Christ. What it does basically is it really blends it in, and it might have been better for me to use it here, but who knows. I was just in the moment. I did it a different way. Both ways work. So here to get like different variations, I did a lot of different things. Height extrudes so that I could move the grass blade around a lot and try to get different shifting forms of this singular grass blade. And then I directionally warped it twice, transformed it so that I could put it where I want it to go. And then same process for here, directional warp, transform. The directional warp, basically you always want to keep it at low values, 10 to 20s, I'd say, for the intensity. Use Perlin noises, use black and white spots, use Gaussians, grunges on blur, whatever you want to for that. Then yeah, same process up here, except I'm using a warp. I have my blade warping it a lot and then transforming it to be smaller so that I could blend it into here seamlessly. So yeah, all of these are just blended on top of each other with max lighten. And for some reason I divide here a Perlin noise, probably to make the values pop up a little bit more. Once I do that, this is okay. So now that we have our chunk of grass, so let me just move all of these nodes. How are we doing on time? Oh boy. Okay. So now that we have that chunk, cluster of grass. Ooh, that's better. So we have our cluster of grass. We are going to start making different tile samplers of each of our different wow, it's lagged a little, clusters of grass. So I guess I only do 2 here, but you know, 3, 2, 1, whatever you want to do. Usually I do 2 so that it doesn't look too procedural. You could do 3 for the overkill effect, where it's just completely like completely not like, it looks less procedural. So here I am basically Let's see if I could just get this alone, because it might actually help to see this alone for this one. Okay, yeah, definitely helps. So we had our one cluster of grass, and what I'm doing here is I'm taking this chunk of grass that I Perlin noise divided, directional warping it to give it a little bit of a twist, because I still, again, I don't want the grass to be like, if we look at, let's see, if we look at any of these grasses here, they're not straight at all. They kind of curve a little bit. I mean, these are kind of straight, but even they have a slight curve that's like really, really slight. So I go overboard with it, but you know, you could put this at any value. I put it at 20, and then I transform, probably to gain control over it. I height extrude it to give it a little bit more dimension. I mean, you don't really have to do this. I did this because I ran into a problem later, which I will explain. But so we have the height extrude. Here I have a different variation, which I'm not using. I think I had problems with this one because it was too curvy. So yeah, so I have that, all that. I plug it into this tile sampler, and I put it at a really high amount, 50 and 50. You know, you could do more if you really want to get like smaller grass blades. It just depends on what you want for like the game you're trying to make, or if this is just a personal piece, however you feel. So yeah, so rotation random at 0.62, symmetry random at 0.59. Then we made the scale really big, and the reason I did that is so that they overlap each other and they're not like, you know, because then I would have to fill this area here with more blades of grass, and that's just a painful thing to do. But here you get like these really cool sections where they kind of overlap, and it intertwines in each other, and it looks really natural and flowy. I really like that. We have scale random at 0.19 and position random at 2.4. Let's just put this at 2.5. Sometimes I do these really awkward values, but just usually it's better to round off all of these. 0.7 offset. Then we keep going down. Rotation, we have the rotation random at 0.21, so we want to put that in a good place, but not too much. You can mess around with rotation. I really didn't, but it doesn't hurt to try to get like a random rotation in here. I mean, it'll still look natural either in every direction you go at this point. And then our color random. So we don't want, this is how we're getting the cool overlapping effect, is we don't want all our grass blades to be at the same level of gradient level. So like we put the color random up to 0.71. Oh my god, Carlos, what are you doing with these values, honestly? 0.71, as if it can't be 0.7. I mean, maybe I put it there for a reason, so I'll just leave it like that, but it's generally just a feeling. When I'm doing these, I just kind of feel it out, try to make sure that it looks good. That's, and you know, you can only know if it looks good if you have reference. So make sure you gather a lot of reference, super important. So take a break real quick. Okay, so for the I mean, I didn't go over this, but this is basically the same process as this, where I'm taking a directional warp, transform, height extrude, etc. to get grass blades. I think I use these later to add a little bit of diversity to these. Diversity is not the right word. A little bit randomness to this. So I have this here. Let me plug back in my main height. Back in. Wait, hold up. Is it this one? Cool. Yeah. So Can't believe it's not that one. I wonder what this is for, actually. Oh, right. It's for my mask for that. Okay. Yeah, so we have 2 tile samplers with 2 different grass displacements. And so I'm taking this tile sampler and we're going to go on this train because I think I did this before I did this second one. We go this and we go auto levels into a blend. Let me see what I'm blending here real quick. I made this a while ago, so I'm trying to remember everything I did. Yes, so here we are blending in. We are multiplying. Let me check. So here we're multiplying a little bit of grunge to the grass to kind of like, I'm guessing add a little bit more naturalness to it. I mean, I don't really know why I did this. It might have been to add some noise to the grass. This may be optional, honestly. I guess I was just feeling it out. But that's on a multiply at 1. Then I auto levels it again. Then a levels to make all the grass go on the exact same plane. And I didn't do it here. So that because I wanted it to overlap in weird ways, but here I'm doing it so that I could get a good height and be able to have these patches of grass. Then I came and blended the same exact grass with a safe transform. That way I have like this patchiness that looks really natural. And let me see if I could put that in here. So yeah, see, oh wait, wrong one. Let me go back on that. This one. Yeah. So see here, we have clumps and it's a little noisy by this time because all the height is really extreme right now. But we are getting like these divots which look a little bit more natural in the grass than this one per se. See, this one doesn't have any of the divots and it's just like too raised up, too noisy. But here you could see it looks way better. So let me go back all the way to my last grass. Okay, so yeah, so let me explain how I did that. So I subtracted a Perlin noise after going through a histogram scan with it, and so what I did here was trying to make it so that I get these high white values that are at 1, but then it slowly goes out into a 0 value, and we have all these like 0.6, 0.5s, this gradient around these like chunks. So that makes it look like it actually trails off and tapers off instead of just cutting off like in an extreme way. And then, you know, I added the grass on a high blend. So here I'm actually using the high blend because I get like the perfect blending unison. And what I'm doing here is that it's at a 0.42 with a contrast of 0.9. 1 second here. I'm going to take a break. Okay, so let's continue this. Right. So I was explaining that, you know, I was in the process of explaining the high blend situation with both the grass sets. So we have our offset at 0.42 and our contrast at 0.9. We don't want to put this fully up because then one or the other will take most of the control, and we kind of want it to be sort of balanced. So then here we're high blending this dirt patch that we made on the side, and we're gonna have to explain the process for the dirt patch. So here these are rocks, but I'm trying to move them real quick. Okay, so we start our dirt patch with these clumps, and this is a really quick dirt patch. We take a shape, paraboloid, did nothing else to it, and then we vector morph to get a breakup of this shape because we want like clumps, like dirt mounds, with a Perlin noise on a gradient map into this. The amount is 0.15. Then we take this vector morph grayscale and we put it into a tile sampler. And I want this to be at a low value so that the mounds look bigger. And we get this cracking, which is really, really cool in terms of dirt goes. And then, so it's at a 4 of 4 here. No rotation, no symmetry. We put the scale up to 3.94 and scale random to 0.55. We have the position random at 3.35, and you could offset if you want. I don't think it really matters, but you could see how the offset is affecting my main material here. Yeah, so we have that. We didn't put a rotation, although I'm pretty sure you could do this if you want more variation. I don't think it really matters. It's a very slight change in the holistic of it all. And then, so I have this one, and then I made a second one with smaller clumps. So this one is at, let's see, 15, 15. Scaled up the height a little bit more because the dirt mounds got really small. So 5.65, 63, whatever you want if you want to round up. Or down, 5.6. So, and then the scale random at 0.55. I think the position random is in the same. Yeah, 3.35. Didn't change that. I don't think I changed anything else here. We don't want to color random on this because we want just the max values for these. So here I'm blending these two together on a min darken, and basically what min darken does is it cuts out the negative shapes of this, the black, and it cuts it out of the white values to create this like extra clumping and these cracks that just make our shape look a little bit better. Then here I am adding a slope blur to it with the clouds 2 so that I could get more cracking here, make it look a little bit more grungy, more dirty. No pun intended. And then here what I'm doing is I'm trying to average out all these values by adding more noise onto it. And so I take this blend here with our main shape, and I add a slope blur grayscale with a moisture noise. So I get a moisture noise, don't do anything to it. Then slope blur it so I could get more circular shapes with it, because right here it's a little too noisy and I just want a more bubbly feeling to it. And then put that there, and then on an overlay of 0.79 or 0.8. And you can see it here. It's like very, it gives it like that fidelity of it being dirt. It's not this, by the way, it's like just the base, because it adds like that like cloudiness to it that really just sells it. Then here I guess what I'm doing is I'm adding more breakup to this big white shape. So I blend it, a copy of 0.26, and this safe transform grayscale tiled with an offset so that it doesn't look too like tiled into itself. And then again adding more noise. So this is in an overlay of 0.38, black and white spots on a blend. So basically I'm taking my blend, this one, and blending it with black and white spots. Okay, we're almost done with the dirt here, I think. And then we can move on. So here I think I'm just going with the process of blending more noise into it. So I'm taking a cells, inverting it to get this little crystallization, and adding that into my shape. And it's very minimal. You can see it right here. It's very minimal all over the place. You see it in like little bits, but I think it adds overall to the the final. And then we're taking actual dirt node, dirt 3, histogram scanning that so that we could, you know, have less dirt because this is way too much. That's on a 0.35 position. Then we're blending that with our last blend on a add linear dodge, and now we're actually getting these, which from up close they don't look too great, but when you zoom out and you look at the entire material as a whole, yeah, you can't notice that they're there. I mean, you notice enough to where it's like, oh, that looks like dirt, but you don't notice it enough to where you're like, what the heck, look at this weird clipping and all that. So yeah, then I levels that out to kind of balance all the values, and bring it down a little bit. I think I'm also doing this so that I could blend it more appropriately into this other stuff. So yeah, levels that, and then I take okay, so this is where it gets kind of complicated here because I do some weird stuff here. So let me just backtrack a little bit here. So I'm taking a single grass blade from before, putting that into a tile sampler. So it's not a clump, it's just a singular grass blade, as you can see. And then with this tile sampler, I'm making these values super big, or small, I mean. So 100, 100, and rotation random, put that at whatever, symmetry random, put that at whatever, you could feel it out. For the scale, I have a 4.69. Oh my god, how could I do this to myself? 4.7. And a scale random. I think you could put these values at whatever you're feeling, honestly. It just depends on what you want. It's more personal, preference based. Position random at 8.05 and offset at 1. Wow, we're getting better. Rotation random, rotation, all of this, I think you should just feel out for yourself. And then this is the important bit, the mask random. If I put this down, you're gonna see that I have a shit ton of grass, and that just creates noise. But with the mask random, you get a select few, which is really nice, for like little sticks that go into dirt. And I kind of got this from a lot of different grasses. You kind of see that there's a layer of grass, right? This is the grass, but then there's these like sticks above the dirt, which is like dry grass almost. So it's like the first layer of grass before the second layer of grass goes, because grass is basically just layers. You have like the grass material, you know, starts with dirt, then goes into the dry grass, then goes into the first layer of grass, second layer of grass, and then the third layer of grass, which is just grass standing up. And that you would do that with planes and such. But enough about the layers of grass. So yeah, so right, we were at the mask random. So we have mask random, and you know, color random as well. We want that, and then we auto levels this to be able to actually have these bits. And we're taking a blend, and we're basically using the same Perlin noise we used for this one to get our mask, and using it here. And then we're taking that all the way down here and blending it with our dirt. So now we have our dry grass in random patches, our dirt, our little like higher spec dirt, and then here we are blending in some tiny rocks. So usually what I do to blend in the tiny rocks is it's a two blend process. You take one blend, subtract with a mask. You make sure this mask is completely white. I don't know why it's not completely white here, but I think maybe it's because I want this edging to actually go in. So I guess not completely white, but just feel it out for whatever you're trying to do. And then a max lighten to put it in. And sometimes this could be replaced for an add linear dodge, but as you can see, add linear dodge wasn't working for me here because the rocks are too big and I wanted a specific amount of the rock to come out. So these are the ones in question. So I guess we'll go over the rock because it's kind of like we're breaking this down one by one. So let me frame this. Dirt. Then this small frame. Dry grass bits. Let me save that. I'm actually organizing as I go here. I don't normally organize unless I'm like presenting it or giving away a material to like for people to like inspect it or whatever. Okay, so rocks are pretty simple, and there's many tutorials to make them look way better than the one I did here. This is just like a basic rock, and it's also kind of stylized, as you can see. I don't have any like dirt to it. I did that kind of on purpose because I didn't want it to be too noisy, since it's already such a small like detail in my noisy ass material. So basically took a polygon. Polygon is usually the start for rocks. You could also use a paraboloid shape or any other shape, honestly. A starburst. That's not the candy, by the way. That's an actual node. So we blend that in with a gradient linear 1 on a min darken, and now we're getting this nice rocky edge. You know how rocks be. They have all these edges to them, and you know, we take another blend and repeat the process, except this time the gradient linear is rotated different way. So this one's at 270, that one's at 0. And see, now we're getting more of a more defined rock shape. Then here, what I'm doing is I'm cutting out, so I'm using a shape, brick shape with pattern specific at 0.72 and scale at 0.65. The pattern specific is the gradient. And transformation 2D into a subtract. So I'm trying to like break this edge off so that it doesn't look too procedural or too much like a polygon, because obviously we started with a polygon. When you take that, I make it smaller, and then another blend, min darken, with a gradient axial. Now I'm getting this really big, like nice flat plane that a rock would have. And then I gradient map that to bring the values up a little bit. So I'm, you know, messing with these here. And then I take another gradient linear. This one's a 2 though. And I'm overlaying it to get this white plane here, which is another flat plane for the rock. I think this rock is the one. I'm actually not sure because I have like 2 different rocks. Yeah, I think it's this one. So you could see this one is more complex than this one. This one's kind of simple. This one has like a lot of edges, and it looks, you know, a little bit more like a rock. Yep. And then I levels that, bring down the values a little bit. And for the second rock, same process, except I changed the rotations of my gradient linears. Same process here. Gradient axial, a gradient map, and then my transformation 2D here is I'm changing the shape entirely to make like a really wonked shape for the rock. And I think this really helped because I didn't want to have 2 like similar sized rocks. You know, you want one small, one big, one medium, one large, whatever. And then another min darken here with a gradient linear, and then threw that into my tile sampler. So I threw both of these into my tile sampler with a pattern input of 2. We have a X amount of 16, a Y amount of 16, rotation random, symmetry random, scale. I didn't want to go too far with this, so I have it at 1.31. You don't want to go too high with this specifically for this material. So I'd say keep it around here, maybe below. Scale random, position random, offset. One note with the position random, you do not want your rocks to be touching when you position random. And the reason my mines aren't touching is because I actually use a mask random. If I didn't use a mask random, there'd be like 1,000 rocks just overlapping each other. But you know, So between the mask random and the position random, you want to basically make it so that your rocks aren't touching at all. Because they're pebbles, and you know, it'd just be a pain to do it manually. So it's better if you do it in the tile sampler. So offset at 0.15, and that's pretty much it. I don't color random this because I want all the rocks to be at the same level. And then I histogram scan it so that the rocks are a little bit higher in value so that they fit into here better. And then I have, so I have this contrast position random, and then I have my rocks here, and then the two-step process of subtracting and blending in with a max lighten. So, right. So now we could go back to our main graph, which is right here. Let's just title this main graph. God, I really should have done this prior so that you guys could follow better, but I'm hoping that you guys are following just fine, and I'm not going too fast or too slow or anything of the sort. This is kind of my first breakdown, so I'm trying to make it like, trying to, you know, just feel it out, do my best. Okay, so we're back at our height blend. So basically we're taking everything we just did between our rocks and our dirt and our dry grass bits, and we're blending that in to our grass, all of our little grass entanglement here, blending in. And this is when it gets really nice, because we start to break up these massive clumps of noisiness with bits of rest, because you don't want just noise, you want bits of rest. And even though I have these dry grass bits, it doesn't take away from these giant mounds of dirt everywhere that just really helps overall to break it. We'll get to these soon. I know they're here, and they're like kind of adding a lot to the material. So we have our height blend. That's on a 0.35, so really low value. You don't want to go too high with this, because if you go too high, either the dirt overpowers or the grass overpowers. So you could play around with that, but don't go too high. Contrast at 0.95. And then, so we're using this mask for a lot of different things, and I want to see why real quick. So let me just click on that. Oh, okay. So this mask is basically very good because we have our dirt side of things. So this is all of our dirt. And then we have our grass. So basically, I'm using this mask here to either color the dirt or color the grass. And I think let me see if that's true. Yep. So coloring the dirt and the grass. We'll get to coloring later. Coloring is a big mess, I know. Hopefully it won't take too long or be too complex. Getting short on time here. We're hitting the 40-minute mark. Jesus Christ. So I'll try to speed up a little bit here. Okay, so we have a blend multiply of 59 with a Perlin noise, just trying to get more variation of height. And then we're going in here and we're height blending our lily pads, our small little lily pads. So how we're making the lily pads is we're taking a splatter circular, pattern amount 10, pattern amount random min 1, ring amount 1, symmetry 0. Make sure that you're using a paraboloid here. I don't know if you could use any other shape because I'm not sure it'll look like this, like a lily pad shape-ish kind of thing. Radius at 0.13, ring radius multiplier at 1, spread at 1. Some of these I think I didn't tweak with, honestly. Radius random 0, angle random 0. I don't know if I tweaked everything, but I'm pretty sure I tweaked this. 0.12 on the size, 0.1 Y size. Scale 4.64, I definitely tweaked that. Scale random 0.13. Let's see, I think that's it for this. Then we take that and we're vector morphing again with the Perlin noise. We've done this several times, so at this point should be pretty much just a stable of this material with an amount of 0.12. Wait, what happened to my color actually? Oh, I deleted the uniform color. I goofed. I goofed. Yeah, I'm just gonna put my color in for now. Let's look at a cuter material. Yeah, these are our lily pads. Kind of have a weird color thing going on there, but doesn't matter for now. So after that, I'm cutting out a nice incision here, as lily pads have, with a polygon, sides 3, and then curve at negative 0.52 and gradient at 0.17. Transformation, and then we're blending it, subtracting that. We're beveling this to give it like that nice, so here it's all like it's going out too much, and then we're just kind of like constricting that a little bit. So copy 0.65. Then we're slope blurring here with a Perlin noise to kind of get like wonkiness to it. Levels, and then I think I crunch all these values down because I realized that with the slope blur that I had, I think it was blending out too much into itself. So here we have levels, and then I think we're taking an edge detect here with a value of 2 and 4, inverting that, blurring it, and then blending that into with a multiply into itself. So you can see here, that's how we're getting like this nice, well, that was too much, but that's how we're getting this nice like edge definition here for them. Let's see. Then we're slope blurring that to get like some crunchiness on the outside edges. That's a clouds 2 slope blur on 0.1 mode blur, samples all the way up. And then we're slope blurring it again to smooth those out with a Perlin noise. It's on blur with a value of 1.16, samples all the way up. Then we're blending it. It's on a subtract 0.02. I think I'm just using the Perlin noise to get more breakup here. And then we're subtracting. So this is interesting. We're subtracting this edge detect. It has a lot more finer detail now. Inverting that, slope blurring it a little bit, and then blending that out. I'm not sure if you should do this or not. It worked for me, but I'm not sure. Sorry for doing that. Force of habit. At least I did it for a second and realized that it was really dumb of me. Okay, so here I'm tau sampling it. Don't know why I'm using 2 patterns. You could just use one here, but very high value on the X and Y amount. I should really close that. I have my rotation at 0.62, my symmetry at 0.59, and my scale at 3.67, scale random 0.41, position random 8.16, offset 0.69, rotation random 0.53. Sorry if I'm going through these fast. I'm just trying to get through these really quickly because this is such a small part of the entire thing, and I really want to show you guys what I did for the coloring. And color random at 0.71. So then right here, doing the same method I did before, Perlin noise, histogram scan, transformation, and then I blur it. So I'm having these little clump places, and then, you know, they're a little clumped up, but they like, you know, slowly fade out. I don't want like a huge, see here, slowly fading out into itself. I don't want like a huge like offset. And then I'm blending that into my grass. So now we have lily pads on our grass. You could choose to put lily pads or not put lily pads. It works either way, honestly. If you just want grass and if you were just here for grass, I did that, and you know, we had like a nice grass. Okay, so we have our lily pads in with a height blend. This is in 0.39, and I actually have the contrast at 1 here because I do want the lily pads to kind of overpower our just base grass and dirt material. And then we're blending in these small, cute little like leaf clover things, 3-leaf clover. And with that, let me just frame this clover. Take a quick water break here. Okay, so let's keep on going here. So to make our clover shape, we just took a shape node, paraboloid, squashed it a little bit, 0.82 with a scale of 0.63. And then we're taking a polygon 2 here, transforming it, and then adding it onto our shape, blurring that to get this leaf shape. There's so many ways to do this. I think I was just being a little lazy here and I just did it this way, but there's 1,000 ways you can make this same shape. With the levels, slope blur it, and then beveled it here to give it like that this little bevel here, this outer ring. I'm adding that with a copy of 0.39 and blending that with okay, so I'm subtracting here, gradient linear dodge, and I'm just trying to get like that, the middle part that all leaves have. And here I'm actually doing a tile random with X value of 2 and a Y value of 1, and threshold at 0, mode auto, using the square pattern, and then a multiplier of 10. And I want the intersize to be at 0.17. That's the, you know, the size of this cutting. I want it to be pretty small with a scale of 1. That's the scale of our little squares here. And then that's pretty much it, I think. We're directional warping that with our initial blend here of our shape. Down, you can do down or up, I don't think it matters, with a pretty large value of 67. And then we're blending that back into itself so that we could get these nice lines. Multiply of 0.08. You don't want that to be too large because then it like cuts into it. I think this is too large, to be honest, but it doesn't really matter at this point. So I have that at a subtract. I'm subtracting Perlin noise to randomize the height a little bit, so you can see here it's like all white, it's like a uniform value, and here we're kind of getting a breakup and subtracting this. You could put this at kind of a bigger value. I think I didn't put it at a big value because when I like raise the tessellation on this, it gets really wonky, but you could play around with that. So here I'm vector morphing it again with Perlin noises to get like slightly morphed leaves. Then I'm trapezoid transforming this one. I don't think you really need to do this, but I just wanted to add more variation to this leaf. So I made the top stretch of -0.5 and bottom stretch of 0.42. And then you're transform 2D'ing them all together, multiplying them with an add linear dodge. There, we got it. See what's happening here? That's the effect I'm talking about, but I don't think it matters too much here because of how like I height blended my leaves. So throwing that into a tile sampler, excuse me, throwing that into a tile sampler, and we have the X amount at 20, Y amount at 20, and scale at 1.6, scale random at 0.52, and I'm pretty sure I'm using a mask random here, a pretty high one too, of 0.94. It's pretty high. Position random of 2.39, no rotation random. I'm sure you could rotate random these. I don't know why I didn't symmetry random and rotate random. Sure, you could do that. No color random either. Okay, so that's apart from this, I believe. Yeah, that's for coloring. So here we're taking this and we're putting it into our high blend, and that's how we have all these little leaf thingies everywhere, like clovers. Yep. And we move forward, and now we have everything blended in together. Oh, sorry. This is at a 0.33 blend with a contrast of 0.9. Then we take another blend with on an overlay of 0.45 to a Perlin noise on levels, and that way we get more breakup of here. See how that like highlights certain areas and decreases certain areas. Then here we are adding sub of a, I think this is our, yeah, this is our dirt clumps. And we kind of took it, it's still on 4.4. I think the size is different, 3.94, scale random 0.55, position random is definitely different, it's at 6.62, and nothing else changed. The color random is still 0.72, and I think what we're doing here is we wanted the clumps to be more prominent. So you see here, it's like kind of flat. Here we have like actual intersections that are pretty massive, and even here we have like a really low point. And I think that helps with the entirety of it all. Then that's our final height. So this is our final height. Pretty much we put it into here just to make sure. Then out of that we get our ambient occlusion, our height, our normal, which, let me be honest, I am not sure where to, oh, there's our normal, which is at 15. That might be a little too high for this, but you can see how noisy this material looks if you just look at the normal. I want to do our roughness a little later, so this is our roughness. I'm gonna put that down here, rough. So we're really close to finishing here, guys. And I'm glad if you've stuck with me this entire time to look through it, or even, I know how people look at these breakdowns. They kind of like skim through or put it at twice the speed, because who wants to listen to my voice like all goddamn for a whole 1 hour? Ugh, that's kind of nuts to listen to someone's voice for that long. But I'm hoping that you're learning something, and you know, I just want to keep making these for people who are in need of some substance designer training. That was hard. Okay, so yes, we did it. We have our height and we're ready to start coloring. Right. So first thing I do for coloring, is I always take, well, I guess I didn't do it here, which is kind of sad, but I think I approached this differently. Okay, so we're using our height mask, putting it into the opacity for this blend, and basically getting our initial big forms out of the way and covered with colors. So we have our dirt and we have our grass, and both of those are now covered. And then I'm taking my curvature smooth here, which is derived off the normal. So off the normal, you take curvature smooth, and then you gradient map that to get like a bunch of tiny little like, why am I blanking here? A bunch of tiny little colors. And it's very noisy, and I think I did that purposefully because this is just a slight overlay on top of our bigger forms. It's a copy of 0.45, and that's just breaking up our big forms and adding some variety to it, make it look more natural. And then we're taking here, we have what are we taking this off of? So we have a histogram scan of our secondary tile sampler of our clumps, and we're subtracting our mask of other grass, and then with that we're putting that into the opacity and adding a uniform color of yellow to get like these highlights on the top bits of the grass. So for this material, I think I went a little bit more abstract with the coloring. That's why if you zoom in, you could see like these patches of color that aren't supposed to be on it, like here you see. But I think because it's such a noisy material, and like when you zoom out you don't really see that, I think it's okay for this specific material. I don't know, this process I wouldn't necessarily do if, you know, I was working with more like strict coloring, but I'm gonna do a bunch of other like breakdowns of other materials that I've done that have like more strict coloring things, and there's a whole different process that you have to follow with like flood fills and masks and all of that. Okay, but basically let's continue on. So So secondary, we wanted to color the lily pads. As you can see, they're getting colored here. So I think we're just, yeah, see, we're taking the mask off the secondary one, and that's just the height mask of this. And that's literally our lily pads here. And we're just adding a uniform color to that very quickly, very simple. And then here we're adding more noise. This time we're taking the ambient occlusion and adding a bunch of little noise speckles. And then we're coming back, and what are we doing for this one? What are we adding? I think we're adding variation to our lily pads, right? So let's see. Yeah. Okay, so here I'm going all the way down to our tile sampler. From our tile sampler, oh my god, it's like freezing up on me. So okay, so from our lily pad tile sampler, which is down here, we are doing a flood fill, so we get all this flood fill into a random grayscale and then into a histogram select, and that just gets like a bunch of random ones. This is at 0.77 with a range of 0.25. You can mess around with this. You can get a bunch of different like variations here. And then our gradient map is a bunch of different colors, but as you can see, now we have like a blue one, orange one, yellow. And what I want to do with this is I basically want to put it in here with the same mask that you use for the lily pads at the first coloring. Oh, that's, wait, is it over here? Wait, is it here or here? Yeah, here. And I'm putting that at a very low, and you can see if I put it on a high, you'll see that the colors are crazy vibrant and they're like all over the place. But yeah, we're just adding a little bit of variation to this. Maybe I could even put it at a 0.1. Yeah, you know, just put it at a 0.1, might be better. And yeah, that's on a copy of 0.1. And then we're moving on and we're coloring, what are we coloring here? I think we're coloring the other, like the clover shapes. So we're coloring the clover shapes here, but for the clover shapes I approached it differently. I apologize for any background noise you might have heard there. I'm just gonna continue on. So for the clovers, I did something different. I decided to combine both the methods into just one that I did with the lily pads. So we have the flood fill here for our tile sampler, and then we're doing a flood fill to a random grayscale, and from that we're deriving a gradient map with random colored little clover thingies, and then we're copying that to get the coloring for the clovers. And I kept that value at a minimal because the colors are already kind of good on the lily pads by this time, or the clovers. And it's at a 0.12, and then the mask I'm using is derived from the height blend. And then here I'm adding a more pronounced reddish. Okay, sorry, I took a big break there, but sorry if I've cut out a lot of times in this recording. It's really hard. It's my first time. Okay, so as I was doing, we were doing grass, and I was going to show that the next step was blending in this yellow coloring for the leaf clovers. And basically all I'm doing is basically taking the same mask from our height blend and masking it off at a 0.43. And then okay, so next up we're going to add this like subtle white hint in the middle of the grass blade to really pop out the grass without it. See how that looks. There's like, you see the tint really helps it come a long way a little bit. And then you could especially see it in the color, like, and when light shines on it in the proper way, it really helps. So take our histogram select, put it at a 0.52, and we're deriving the mask off of our base tile sampler from the grass clumps. And we're taking this, we're basically getting like the middlemost part, so 0.52 position, 0.57 range, and a contrast of 0.66. using a uniform color of like a beige white. And then next we're adding some random grass, some random greener, more green spots. Basically just the clouds with a histogram scan and a uniform color of green. And then right here, I think, let's see, what are we doing here? I think we're just bringing the values closer to this color. And I'm just taking our mask from our original height blend with the dirt, and using that. And then after this, we are, let's see, what is this? Okay, so after this, we're taking a flood fill. We want to add more randomness to it, and we're random grayscaling that, putting it into here, and then getting like a bunch of random colors for these. So you see they're becoming a little bit darker there. And then here we're completely separating, because right here you could see there's a separation amongst the dirt and the grass, but it's not enough to really like separate them. So we want to separate them a little bit more. So here we're just taking we're taking a bunch of different masks and subtracting them. Let me see how I did this. So pretty much we have our clovers, and what mask are we deriving here? Okay, so our base dirt, grass, we are subtracting that from our clovers, and then we are subtracting, we were subtracting our lily pads first, and now we're subtracting our clovers here, and that gives us a mask for the dirt. So now you see like all the dirt is really nice. And then we are adding this white to our dry bits. So just take this that you already made and plug it into here with a copy, as well as this dirt blending also with the copy of 0.64. And then I think we're adding more coloring to the clovers here, and I don't think there's much of a challenge here. We're just kind of taking the tile sampler, gradient mapping it with some colors, and adding that on to our previous coloring. And then here, what am I doing? So getting the flood fill of, oh, that's interesting. I'm getting the flood fill of our curvature smooth, flood filling that to random grayscale, histogram selecting, and then blending out, I'm gonna guess the dirt grass blend mask, height blend mask. Then I'm getting like a bunch of little like random coloring spots here, and that's just gonna add variation to the entire graph. See, you could see like here versus here the variation it adds, and that's just so that the overall color looks kind of like randomized. And so here I think I'm adding more dry grass spots, but these are longer. So let's see, we have yeah, so this is where I'm taking this blend here, adding some, oh okay, so I made like a longer, so this is like a longer dry grass. It's pretty much the same concept as this one, sorry, dry grass bits here. I'm taking that, but I made them a little bit longer. So let's see what I did here. So the scale is 4.69, and the Y value is at 6. So that's really important, the Y value being at 6. Everything else I think is probably the same. Auto level is that, and then height blended that to this to get like a proper mask. And then I'm just using the mask here, because I think what I'm doing here is that I'm height blending them so that they exist as a color, but not as, wait, hold up, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it is this. Oh yeah, sorry, no, this is the I'm silly. This is your final, this height blend. So I'm blending in this like stripy patch of dry grass, and then getting the coloring and also the height for that. This height blend is at 0.23 and 0.9, and then I'm taking the mask of this for our coloring here, to get these stripes. Sorry about that for not including this. I really thought that this was my final height, but it's actually this one, so we can include that in there. I just have so many like lines and everything. Okay, so yeah, so we got our, and that's just a uniform color on a copy. Yeah, and we get these like scratchy points. And then we're getting close to the finale here. I'm just gonna go over, I'm only gonna go over roughness a little bit, but okay, so we histogram selected our ambient occlusion at a range of 0.36 or a position of 0.36 and a range of 0.17 with a contrast of 1, and that's so that we get these like this outlining effect. You don't have to necessarily do this, but I like doing this because it just makes it feel more like cohesive, and it gives it like that height that it needs. So yeah, like let me show you what it looks like without it, and it's not a big difference because all of these are see, without that you could just see that it's like there's no, it's just, you know, regular, but this adds like an extra level of darkness that I really like, grunge. And then finally taking a clouds 3, histogram scanning that at 0.31, safe transforming it. I'm not sure what I did here. I don't think I did anything, so maybe this is just for safety. And then just blending colors, making sure that these 3 colors are transparent, and adding that with the, see, this is why I hate this mode, with the with this mask that we made with this custom mask. This is a custom mask. Yep. And then finally we add the coloring for the rocks, and I don't know why we left this for last, but oh right, because we have to blend out a bunch of things from it. Yeah, see, we're subtracting a lot of these, like, because some of the rocks don't really show up in the final, so we have to subtract like a bunch of the mask. So let me just go through each subtraction. I'll make it like a staircase. So the first thing we subtract is, I'm guessing, this mask. No, first thing we subtract is this mask. We subtract this mask, and we subtract that mask, and that's, I think, all 3 masks. That's what they should be, if I'm not correct. If I'm correct, yeah, I think all those 3 masks. And then you have your final. Obviously, you want to take a histogram scan of your initial tile sampler for the rocks right here. Histogram scan that, 0.64, 0.92. You could go all the way with the contrast, honestly. I don't know why I left it at these weird values, honestly. And then use that as the opacity mask, and then we take a dirt, add a bunch of colors to it, and put that for your rock color. Yep, and you can see it there. And that's our final. That's how our base color is going to look for the final. And then, so we got through our color. We're nearing an hour and 20 here. So color. And then, wow, this graph looks so much more organized with the frames. Okay, so our roughness. It's very simple roughness. I didn't do a lot for it, so this should be quick. So for our roughness, we take a curvature smooth that's derived off the normal. We invert it, and I do this always. I actually do this in the middle, like when I first start my material, I have this curvature and invert grayscale already plugged into the roughness. I don't just use a uniform, because I like how when you're designing things, whether it be like you're like making like a door texture, dirt texture, whatever it is, bark texture, this makes it so that every time the outer part, it basically reads as a curvature mask. And what a curvature mask does is basically it outlines the outer part of whatever you're modeling. So If it's a sphere, the outer part of that sphere is going to outline, and it's going to look really cool as roughness. So basically, take my inverted curvature smooth, and then I blend it with this grunge. So I'm taking my ambient occlusion here with a grunge dirt. You could use any grunge, honestly. I wouldn't recommend grunge dirt. It might make it a bit too noisy, and you see how it's making it more dirty. So I'm subtracting that at 0.48, and then I'm directionally warping that with the clouds on 40 intensity, and it's plugged into the foreground, and then the curvature smooth inverted into the background, and we subtract that at 0.18, and I'm just trying to get more randomness in the roughness here. And then we're literally taking our our height blended dirt mask. This one's really important, like I said. It's gonna come in handy a lot of times. And oops, my bad on that. My mic fell almost. And we're blending that into here on a linear dodge of 0.21. Then we're just taking our rocks, this histogram scan, doesn't matter what histogram scan, just a histogram scan, and blending that in at an add linear dodge of 0.41. And finally, I'm taking my clovers and you know, the flood filter random grayscale that we did before, and subtracting that by 0.23 so that the clovers have a little bit more shiny, more specular to it. And I think that's it. That's all I did for the roughness. It's very simple roughness. You don't have to do a lot for it. I mean, you can go crazy with roughness sometimes, but I just decided that what we had was pretty good, and that's it. That's pretty much the entirety of our grass material. Yeah, our ambient occlusion is at 0.1 and 1. I would recommend though doing 0.1 and 0.1. Usually it's just way better. It's a very minor difference, but it's way better, like realistically. So yeah, that's it. I hope you guys found a lot of use from this breakdown, and I'm going to provide this whole graph for people to see while you're doing the tutorial, or you could just follow the breakdown tutorial and make the grass yourself and see like the ups and downs you find, because it might be a good challenge to just try making it yourself so that you can learn. Yeah, hopefully you stuck out to the end, and keep following my stuff for more tutorials, and I'm also soon gonna start YouTube for this type of stuff. So thank you guys. I love you all. Good night.